Story 1. This takes place well before the COVID-19 pandemic in 2016. My husband, 28 male at the time, and I, 26 female, were having difficulties in our relationship. He was very verbally, mentally, and sexually abusive when he didn't get his way or when he was drunk. I had enough of it and suggested we get help from a professional. He would always try to go to his friends to talk things out, but I wanted professional help, and he was in the military, so the military would have covered it. He agreed and started getting some real help for himself. I know, this part is serious stuff, but it's just background information and not for what I pulled revenge on. He was getting better, and then his grandfather died, so he left for a month. Nothing big for me. He was in the military. I was used to it. But when he came back this time, he immediately asked for a divorce. Now, we have a son between us, and at the time, my mother came out to help me with taking care of him because he was still not sleeping through the night. It was also on my birthday when he came back, so I asked why. He went into a rant about how I was the problem and proceeded to gaslight me. On my birthday, in front of my mother, I saw red, so I agreed. A few months later, I found love letters between a girl he went to college with. They dated back to 2 years before my son was born, with very detailed descriptions of what they were doing together in bed. We had been married for 5 years, so I called my parents. I didn't tell them anything, just that he was kicking me out. He was, and we were in base housing, so I had no choice. They came out, and I packed all my things. Then I packed all the toilet paper in the house, the cooking utensils, both the gaming consoles, every bar of soap, left the bed frame but took the mattress, and all of the legal documents we had. Without saying a word to him, he then sent me a very angry text about how I should have asked for his help and that he didn't even want to talk about what I took. He texted, "I'll let you have full custody of our son if you give me back the gaming consoles." I said our son is a person, not a thing that can be traded away, and that I would see him in court. A week after that, I found out that he moved in with the girl he was cheating on me with, so I casually let his superior officer know that his wife was no longer living with him. He got kicked out of base housing. I won my case against him by bringing in copies of all the love letters and have full custody of our son. And to this day, I say I am happily divorced. Story 2. Okay, before this starts, a little backstory first. In the 6th grade, I went to a really small school. There were about 150-170 kids total from pre-K to 12th grade. So since teachers were a rare commodity, they were treated royally and their children the same. The entitled kid had an entitled mother who was a staff member. Also, the entitled kid had some bad blood after she covered my new bag in dirt. The story starts in the middle of November. If I recall correctly, I'm sitting in study hall talking to my Russian friend. We'll call him V for privacy. V and I got bored and decided to pull out my huge craft book. We flipped to the origami section, and one table away, the entitled kid and her posse of classmates were giving us occasional death stares and chatting among themselves. Either way, V and I talked it out and decided on the origami water bomb. We walked near the entitled kid's table to my other friend G and asked if he wanted to help us make it. The entitled kid's table gave out a silent snicker. We gave up after 15 minutes. Fast forward to the next day, I'm eating my breakfast, and I get called to the door by the principal herself. I really hated her. I think it's to ask if I know anything about a fight or something. She sounds unusual and very strictly tells me to sit down. She locks the door to her office. Here is my best recreation of the exchange. Principal, you know what you said. Fess up. And if you dare to get brash, I have already alerted the police. Me? What on earth are you talking about? Principal, the entitled kid and her friends all came to tell me you were planning a school shooting bombing. They said they had proof. Me. Then call them down here and have them show me it. Principal, I can't. Me? Why? Principal, it would put the entitled kid in a dangerous situation. Me. Fine, then describe the video. Principal, it shows you talking to V and G about making a bomb. I put 2 and 2 together at this point and realized the entitled kid was trying to get me expelled. The entitled mother knocks on the door, and the principal steps out. Muffled conversation between them. Entitled mother, I want him expelled. He is a dangerous threat to the school and my daughter. She said that she would be first because he doesn't like her. Call the police at this moment. Principal, I've already alerted them. All we need now is his motive for them. Entitled mother, asterisk loud sigh asterisk. Just get him out quickly. At this point, I'm nearly in tears, fearing ruining my perfect record. The entitled kid and the entitled mother were working together. At this point, I was crying in the office, and the principal came back in. Principal, you can go. I have notified the teachers to keep a heavy watch on you. Me. What, do you see that this is a setup finally? Principal. No, I just need more evidence for this case to do something. I had no idea what to feel, so I just took the chance I had and walked out of there. Over the next hour, she proceeded to call V, G, and my friend B, who was completely unrelated to the story. As each one came back, I asked them what they said and what she said. G said that she was trying to lean towards me getting in trouble by saying he never wanted to be a part of this and all that other nonsense to make him feel like the victim. V, on the other hand, was treating him like he had direct involvement with the case. Lunch came around, and I was fuming. Everybody gave me nervous glances. A kid that I knew but never really talked to came to me. He's W, by the way. W. Hey bro, is what they are saying true? Me? About me being a school shooter? W. No, about how this is your last day here. My heart dropped. Me? What do you mean? He proceeded to sit down and pull out his phone. He showed me the entitled kid's last social media post. It was celebrating and bragging about her getting me kicked out. Fast forward to the end of the day, after a few more office calls, the school is still on high alert. I go home crying to my mom and I spill and tell her all about it. She is pale white the whole time. She calmly tells me she will deal with it in the morning. Morning comes, and Mom drags me out of bed. I didn't want to go that day, but Mom told me I should because if anyone was going to clear my name, it was going to be me. By the way, my mom is one of the nicest moms you could meet. The only time I have heard her raise her voice was really about not being able to pay a bill on time or when she cheered me on in baseball. This will be relevant in just a second. She storms into the office and tells me to sit in the hall. My mom went ballistic. Principal, I see you have come to defend your son from this matter, but your input won't help as you are not part of the case. Mom, I'm not here to help my son. He's going to clear his name. I'm just his reinforcement to make sure this is a just case. Principal, well then, you have no bu sign. Mom, I have no business being here. Out of the blue, you blame my son for being a school shooter based on little to no evidence and claims from an entitled little jerk that he had bad blood with. Do you see where I'm coming from, you foolish woman? The principal calls me in at this point and, to my surprise, calls the entitled kid too. I asked the entitled kid to show the video she claimed to have, and my mom gave her the death stare. She digs in her bag for her phone for 5 minutes until she stops and pulls it out of her pocket. Entitled kid. Oh, silly me. I forgot my phone was in my pocket. I know this girl doesn't have the video because that was the oldest stalling technique in the book. She scrolls up and down for 10 minutes. Entitled kid. Oops, I must have accidentally deleted it. I knew iPhones had the deleted image recovery dump thing, so I asked her to go there. It was empty. The principal was not convinced yet, so I asked her to call W to the office. Absolute legend. He screenshot her whole posse's posts about getting me kicked out. My mom went crazy on them and said, now I'm getting involved. If this girl doesn't get punished for bullying my son, I'll be going after your jobs, she said. The last part to the principal and the entitled mother. I'm sure reporting a principal for being an alcoholic and drinking during the daytime at that. Asterisk, she gestures to her nose, making an icky face at the smell of alcohol asterisk. And a rat staff member for using her power to cover for her entitled brat's bullying will be very appreciated by the authorities. Both the principal and the entitled mother panicked and started offering compensation so my mother wouldn't report them. We settled with the entitled kid getting expelled for 3 weeks and for her to apologize to me in front of everyone, which she did. It felt really good, lol. I walked away a free man and got to go home early that day. But before I left, I emptied the pencil sharpener shavings in her bag. A little petty revenge on top of it won't hurt. Story 3. So this was 3 years ago, and I was 7 to 8 months pregnant at the time. I had 2 doctor's appointments at 2 separate hospitals due to my high-risk pregnancy, as it is called in the United Kingdom, and I couldn't drive, so I had to do a lot of bus travel that day. All my family were working, and my partner was working to save for his paternity leave. He is self-employed. so no paid paternity leave. At about 8 months pregnant, my feet were swollen. I was huge. I ached and just wanted this all to go smoothly for me. Oh, and it was also July, so it was hot for me. So I'd had my first hospital appointment and was on the bus to go to the second. I had sat in the designated baby, mother, and elderly seats on the bus as I was hugely pregnant. But I sat with my bag on my lap because the area I live in has a lot of elderly people who travel on the bus routes. So I didn't want to make anyone feel like they couldn't sit next to me if they needed the seat. I should also state that on a bus with 35 seats, there were only 4 passengers, including myself. There were plenty of seats for whoever got on the bus. The bus stopped after I got on, and a mother entitled parent and her daughter nice girl got on the bus. The mother paid for her tickets, turned, looked straight at me. The bus driver pulled away here, walked up to me, and asked me to move. I said no, I need to stay seated. She started to get loud and looked at the other passengers, saying, "These seats at the front are for elderly, pregnant people, and people with families. I need to sit here with my daughter." I said, "I am pregnant. I will not be getting up to walk while the bus is moving. Also, as I'm pregnant, this seat, it's for me, isn't it?" Nice girl. "Mommy, look, there's loads of seats. Let's sit at the back." Mother, "No. This girl," I was 27 at the time, "needs to learn respect and needs to move. She doesn't need this seat, and lying about being pregnant is not going to make me stop. Move." So I moved my bag onto the seat next to me, braced myself on the poles, and stood up, revealing my huge baby bump, and said, "I'm not moving one step. Now, leave me alone." I should add I was massive. I gave birth 3 weeks early, and my daughter was already larger than newborn onesies when born, so I was probably looking 9 months pregnant at this point. All the color drained from the entitled parent's face as an older man at the back burst out laughing and started clapping. I turned to look and saw him applauding me. I just gave a small smile, then turned to sit back down, but couldn't help but notice the entitled parent had walked up to the bus driver and was saying something, but I couldn't hear well over the engine sounds. Eventually, the entitled parent shouted, "Just stop the bus," which he did, and they got off. Completely in between 2 bus stops on a busy national speed limit road 60 miles per hour and between 2 towns. So nothing around, shop, or even house-wise. It was actually a road that went through the middle of the forest nearby. Story 4. My former boss was, simply put, an absolute jerk. He was the type of person that had the ability to be so condescending while acting as if he was doing you a favor. His condescending attitude was sometimes downright abusive, and he seemed to have a particular problem with all of the female employees. He acted as if they were dumb and needed assistance with every step. He loved to scream at people regardless of how little their mistake was, if there even was one. He was a slave driver and expected everyone to sacrifice their own personal lives for their job. The thing that sparked this revenge was him telling me to miss my older sister's birthday to come into work on a day that I already booked off. No one liked him. My colleagues and I in the department, around 10 or so, couldn't stand him being there anymore. So we did the protocol. All of us piled together the evidence we had of him not sticking to booked-off holiday schedules, using inappropriate and sometimes abusive language, and we brought it all on one Google document. This was step 1. Step 2 was getting a cherry on top. We did this by getting him to do one of his screaming tantrums at one of us. We wanted this to be as damning as possible, and the youngest and smallest girl out of all of us volunteered to be the bait. She made an intentional beginner's mistake in her paperwork, something bound to get her yelled at, and the idiot took the bait. You see, he liked to do his scoldings in front of all of us to prove a point or rule by fear, as he called it. This gave us the perfect opportunity to film it from behind our desks and add it to the Google document. Now, in our company, there's this really not well-made email system. You can send an email to an entire department, and I mean entire as long as you have its name and the manager's name. But the thing about this was the fact that all of this information was completely and freely given to employees. This means that a person could send whatever email they want to the entire company, including the chief executive officer. So one morning at 10 a.m., to ensure that as many people as possible would be working, we made a burner email and sent the Google document through an email to everyone in the company. It took a little while, as there were many departments to get through, but we got there in the end. We gave the email the subject: boss's name, vital information, branch name, department name. Of course, our boss received the email as well. And you could basically hear the clutter from his office as people all over the company were contacting him to ask him what this was about. Human Resources did a light investigation into him and took heavy disciplinary action. As far as I know, he wasn't directly fired but instead resigned. And a month after that, we never saw him again, and he was replaced by a new guy. His expressions during the whole ordeal helped me sleep at night.